Hey folks, Quill18 here with a new feature for the channel where we look at some of the big news features for the week that affect the kind of games that we play on this channel, and I let you know what's out there. I'm going to start off with Diablo 3, which I know isn't something I really generally cover, but this is really big news. Blizzard has announced that next year, March 18th of 2014, the auction house will close. Both the gold auction house and the real money auction house will be eliminated completely from Diablo 3. They've cited a lot of player negativity, as well as the fact that they have finally come to the conclusion, which I think is correct, that the auction house really diminishes a lot of the really core gameplay elements of Diablo, which is the loot hunting. And of course you can always fill out your gear by doing direct one-to-one trade with other players, but by getting rid of the auction house, I think it really brings back the essence of what Diablo should be. Now, that is going to be combined with the Loot 2.0 system, which is also coming out early next year, which is just going to dramatically change the way the loot drops are calculated in-game. There are going to be fewer items dropped in general, but the quality of the items should go up a little bit more. So in the end, you should get better items, or you should get fewer items, but they will be better. In addition to that, there's going to be something called the Smart Loot System, which increases the chance that you will get items that drop that are keyed to your specific stats. Your primary statistic will be rolled more frequently on items that drop for you, which will make it a lot easier for you to gear up your specific character as you play. Additionally to all that, there will also be an NPC in towns which will allow you to adjust some of the statistics on your items to, again, help you fine-tune the items a little bit more. So even though they're getting rid of the auction house, you're still going to be able to pretty consistently get gear that you really need, but you're going to have to earn it on your own anyway. And I think overall that's going to be a pretty significant improvement to the gameplay. Now, that's all scheduled to probably happen around mid-March of 2014, and the Diablo 3 expansion, Reaper of Souls, is also scheduled for 2014, although in classic Blizzard style, there's been no announcement for that yet, and we probably won't know what the date will be until a month before Reaper of Souls comes out, but one can bet it's going to be sometime after March. Whether that means April or whether that means September, we'll just have to see. In other expansion news, Electronic Arts has announced Cities of Tomorrow for SimCity. This expansion is going to come at us on November 12th of 2013. It's going to be available for both PC and Macintosh at launch, and it's going to add a lot of future kind of related content. It's going to have some new energy sources, resources, lots of new kind of futuristic buildings, and a sort of mechanic that looks like you can build in kind of a green ecological sort of style, and also sort of a more industrial polluty kind of style. It sounds like there's going to be some very tall skyscrapers, almost build your own arcology system where you can stack building modules on top of one another. There will not be larger city plots in this expansion pack. This has definitely been confirmed. Now, whether larger city plots are still coming in some other update or patch is a big question mark at this point, but I think we can all say most of us are pretty disappointed by the fact that we are still without larger city plots, but we'll see what happens there. Now, if you're still craving a good city building experience and SimCity's not doing it for you, Tropico 5 is going to be coming out next April in 2014, and it promises to change up the formula a lot. Of course, Tropico 1, 3, and 4 were basically the same game, but with slightly upgraded graphics and engines between each one. For most players, that was fine. We just wanted more Tropico, more of the same, just give us new unique missions, and that was perfect. But now, maybe it's time for a little bit of a change. So in Tropico 5, the big difference is that we're rolling back into the past. We're starting before the Cold War. In fact, we're going all the way back to the colonial era. You're going to start as a colony of Spain in the Caribbean. You're not going to be El Presidente. Instead, you will be a governor of a Spanish colony. You will be playing in that time era for some amount of time, but eventually you're probably going to want to declare independence. And doing that sort of thing will move you to the next era of gameplay. It will be the Great War era. Following that, you will have the Cold War era, followed by the modern era. In each one of these eras, there will be a slightly different set of buildings available. There will be different missions, different events, and different opportunity to pick sides, and which side you pick at various eras will affect your gameplay further down the road. Now, will changing this kind of gameplay formula help or hinder the series? We'll have to see, but I'm certainly really excited to play it myself, and I can't wait to get back to Tropico. Now, Calypso, the company that publishes Tropico, is also coming out with another game at the end of this month, September 2013, called Rise of Venice. Rise of Venice is basically a continuation of their naval empire trade management kind of games that you might know as Patrician or Port Royal. Patrician happens in the sort of Hanseatic League at the northern half of Europe, whereas Port Royal happens in the Caribbean. Rise of Venice obviously happens in the Mediterranean, and it's centered around Venice, North Africa, and some parts of the Middle East. It's the same general engine, same kind of mechanics. If you've played any of the previous games, you'll be very comfortable playing in Rise of Venice, except there's a different campaign, different materials, smarter AI, more automation options, more objects to build, more buildings to build. I've always been a really big fan of this series. It's hard to call it an exciting set of games. It's very much in a lot of ways kind of a spreadsheet simulator, but for the people who like to play that armchair, merchant economy kind of gameplay, there's really no other alternatives, and they are beautifully, beautifully done. The final thing I want to cover is patch news for Europa Universalis 4. Patch 1.2 is coming out any day now, and it promises a lot of changes. Apparently it's got thousands of lines of code that have been changed. It's an absolute massive patch is the official phrase that the Paradox developers use, and it's going to tweak a lot of existing mechanics and add a lot of brand new features. There's going to be some new achievements, including things like Grand Coalition, which is up to having 6 nations in a coalition, which frankly seems to happen all the time against me whenever I play. Winter Tsars, Luck of the Irish, which is to conquer the British Isles, and a Sunset Invasion achievement, if you can pilot the Aztecs into conquering Lisbon, London, Madrid, Paris, and Rome, and that would certainly be quite an achievement. There's going to be new coalition options. There's going to be a 2D map mode, a borderless windowed mode, which I know I'm really excited for. The ability to copy and paste in text boxes. You can release vassals and then play as them in-game if you want to mix up which nations you're playing as. You're going to be able to spend administration points to reduce your inflation as opposed to needing certain national ideas to be able to pull that off. They're adding over 25 new national idea groups, including Serbia, Orissa, Grenada, Tengu, Malaya, Punjab, Switzerland, Tibet, and Ragusa. Those are the new features. The tweaks include the enemy of my enemy relationship now ticks up over time instead of getting an instant boost. The biggest difference that this will make is when you vassalize someone, you won't get an instant massive relationship boost with your vassal from being in a similar kind of war enemy status. Instead, that will tick up over time. That should be a pretty big effect there. Sieging will now always give at least 1% attrition, and I think I'm a pretty big fan of this because I think it's going to make combat a little bit more interesting and also punish people who just sit in one province with big death stacks a little bit more. You're going to have to maybe move some troops back to your home territory while you siege some border territory, and that makes it, add some interesting element of risk if you want to avoid the attrition. Another big warfare change will be that when you take over a province, you will no longer lose every single building that is in the province. Instead, it will only destroy the highest level building of each type, as well as any unique buildings or manufactories, that sort of thing. Something that warmongers will probably enjoy a lot is the penalty to coring time from having a very large nation will actually be reduced over time, meaning that when you get to about the 1800s, that penalty for coring time is going to be about 0. So you're going to be able to core at a relatively good rate, even though you're going to have a large empire. It doesn't sound like the actual administration costs have been nerfed for coring, but the times have, and I think that's going to make a really big difference for a very, very large nation. A few of the unbalanced missions have been fixed, some of the border friction issues have been fixed, and the biggest bug, I think, related to combat that will be fixed is that sometimes a shattered retreat, a broken army that's in enemy territory, will only move one province and then sit there in a sort of broken, shattered status where it can easily be cleaned up completely by the enemy. And that's definitely game-breaking to have that happen. I've been able to abuse the AI with that, and I've been abused by the AI by that sort of thing. What's supposed to happen when your army shatters, it's supposed to run to the closest friendly province, not just sit in hostile territory, where it's going to be destroyed by enemy troops and very slowly recharge morale, instead of being able to recharge it at full speed. So that, I think, is going to be a really, really nice change to help balance the game. There's a few other tweaks here and there, but I just tried to list some of the ones that seem the biggest to me. There may even be some other changes by the time the patch actually goes live, but I think it's going to be very exciting. Can't wait. Anyway, that wraps up our news for this week. I'm going to try to do these a little bit more often, maybe not every week, but yeah, just try to keep you guys up to date. See you next time, folks. Bye-bye.